You've pioneered a new business model for the fashion industry, one where you look at ethical and environmental concerns as well as the business bottom line in looking at the way that you assess your business. This is something very new for the fashion industry. It's happened in some other industries, but it's something that now increasingly, with media interest in what goes on behind the scenes in fashion, consumer awareness is changing, and companies are now beginning to realise that they too have to show responsibility. But where do you think we are with how this has moved and changed over the last few years?
Well, the change has been enormous. The WWF UK report, Deeper Luxury, said the rise in consumers' ethical and environmental concerns about where the products are made and what they're made out of is the biggest single cultural shift of the 20th century. And that's from 1990 to 2007. So it's been, obviously it's been enormous. I think the industry is completely unprepared because they were taking absolutely no interest in this whatsoever until probably the last 2 years. 30% of UK consumers have actually abstained in the last 12 months from buying goods on ethical and environmental grounds because they were concerned how they were made. And, supermarkets, department store chains take huge notice of anything over 30%, so 30% abstention is cataclysmic.
It is.
And then it goes on to like 50% are concerned about the impact on the environment of the goods they're buying, 85% are concerned with sweated labour, forced labour, and 95% are concerned about child labour. So it's colossal, and marketing is defined giving people what they want.
Out of the billion people working in our industry, where do you think they stand? What has changed in their lives in this big turnaround, this consumer change in attitude? Do you think it's actually had an impact on the daily lives of these people?
Well, hardly at all. I think organic cotton has doubled from 0.01% of world cotton to 0.02. 27 million people work in export processing zones, earning $2 a day, if they're lucky. 20,000 cotton farmers are dying annually from accidental pesticide poisoning in cotton agriculture. There's another 200,000 farmers in India who are committing suicide annually. One state, a farmer commits suicide every 8 minutes due to pesticide debt. These people haven't been affected at all as yet, but this huge rise in consumer demand has been taken very, very seriously by industry, which has effectively been caught with its pants down. So there's an enormous amount of scurrying around now trying to find a roadmap because they simply haven't got one.
Sustainability means different things to different people, and we've all got a part to play.
Well, I don't know.
Do different things.
I think there's an absolute. I mean, sustainability has got to mean it doesn't have a negative impact on the environment, and also people who are actually involved in the manufacturing process are earning enough money to survive.
Yeah,
and
but people can approach that from different angles. Where do you see, for fashion students and graduates, whether they be in design or surface textiles or management, where do you see the biggest impact that they can make when they're going out into industry now?
Well, the first thing is to be educated about these issues, to know the meaning of various certifications. I mean, for instance, everybody thinks fair trade Foundation certification covers everything, and I think it's very difficult to separate social and environmental, because if people are being poisoned by a pesticide which is regarded as an environmental, it really crosses over into the social field. So first thing is they educate themselves. Second thing, they shop according to the findings.
Although the TNS World Panel report says that the under 25s have the highest awareness of ethical and environmental concerns, and yet their buying patterns don't reflect that awareness. They are the least likely of all the consumer groups to actually buy environmental or ethically produced product.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, there's a huge dearth of fashionable, ethically, environmentally made product at affordable prices. There's been a lot of outrageous profit-taking and a lot of greenwash, people promoting their products and going for extra margin on environmental claims that don't out there. The clothing market is, there's a huge gap in the supply side. The demand fast outstrips it, and although they want it, It's still not available to them yet, styles that they like and prices they can afford. And it's the duty of the industry now to provide that. It's not only a duty, but it's actually an economic imperative, because they're the ones who spend the most on clothes anyway.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. The fact that there's not enough fabulous clothes out there that are ethically and environmentally produced, it's a great opportunity, I think, for students and for graduates, because there's a need for beautifully designed pieces. There's a market out there, as you say, and there's a hugely increased awareness, and yet there isn't enough product out there for people. However, on the other side, consumer behaviour has really changed, certainly in the UK, and the value issue has moved from quality to quantity. And although there is this huge movement and sea of change in awareness, there's also a huge growth pattern in the fast fashion market. And you've got supermarkets now retailing a suit for £15. You've got people looking at quantity rather than quality when they're thinking about value. How are we really going to address this issue of consumer behaviour?
Well, consumers have to inform themselves. How we consume decides the future of the planet. If they care, they've really got to ask themselves, if I'm paying £1 for a T-shirt, how was this made? Were children involved? Was it made in a Chinese jail? This kind of very, very cheap clothing is encouraging unethical behaviour in the supply chain. Do I want to be involved in that? But I think they have to write to their favourite brands, and they have to say, I love your clothes, I bought those in the past, but I'm very concerned about their impact on the environment. Are you doing organic cotton? Do you have social certification? I'm going to stop buying your clothes until you write to me saying that you can provide clothing made to these standards. This will have an enormous effect. We also should write to our MPs and particularly our MEPs, saying we want a EU law that only allows goods into the European Union that are made in compliance with the Ethical Trading Initiative Labour Base Code, and also in compliance with the OSPAR list of soon-to-be banned chemicals that are supported by Greenpeace. If they do this and say, these are my views, this is what I want to happen, if you don't share them and you're not prepared to represent my views actively in Parliament, I'm going to find somebody else who does, and I'm going to vote for them next time. And this will change things really far, because I think industry's catching up, but Parliament is very, very far behind. Last Fashion Week, Margaret Hodge was doing her tour and saying, what can the government do to help ethical and environmental clothing, the green movement? And I said, well, actually, we need the laws I've just described that don't allow goods that are made unethically or unenvironmentally into the EU. And she said to me, that would be bad for British business. We're being run by idiots.
I mean, it's going to take a long time before legislation actually has an impact. In the meantime...
the industry's doing it by itself. It's what happened in the 80s when people found there was something wrong with aerosol cans. And the industry said, we'll phase them out in 2 years. They had to replace them immediately because sales dropped dead. This is what we want to force industry to do. And what's so beautiful about what's happening is, my experience with industry trying to change it from within for 17 years delivered absolutely zero.
Where do you see that we can be in 5 years' time?
I think in 5 years' time we could be doing it right.
That's great news.
Yeah, I think we could. It needs...
What are the chances of that happening?
Well, it's down to consumers. It's down to us as individuals. If we're prepared to put pressure on brands and threaten to withdraw our vote from non-sympathetic MEPs and MPs, and do that at the next election, find somebody who does share your views and vote for them, I think we can change everything very, very rapidly, and I think it's now or never. I think we have to do it, but it's consumer power that has been doing it. And so whatever everybody's been doing, carry on and do more, because it's fantastic.
People say that ethical and environmental fashion is elitist. They think that it is not accessible to all. What do you respond to that comment?
Well, it's just simply not true. If you're looking actually at the basic cost, it's hardly any more expensive to make ethically and environmentally. For instance, the value to a farmer of the cotton in an average T-shirt retails about 4 or 5%. That's all. So if it gets paid 20% more, it's going to put 1% on the price of the T-shirt. I mean, that's not a lot. Labour costs are actually a very small proportion of the final cost of a garment. If somebody's paid $2 a day, the making cost of a pair of jeans is 6 cents, which is 0.3p. actually 0.304p. If they're paid $8 a day, which is regarded as a living wage by some people, not particularly by me, the making cost is 25 cents, which is 12p. I mean, if they were paid 5 times that, you know, is that going to actually put the cost of poetry into the roof? I'm sorry, I think not.
Well, thank you, Katharine. You're a fount of knowledge, and what you've said today has been a great help, I'm sure, to all of the audience. So thank you very much indeed, and keep pushing it.
Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you very much.